Welcome to Right Choice Training video series. Today we're diving into an important aspect of project management, managing the scope control process. Effectively controlling the scope of a project ensures that we stay on track and deliver what was promised, on time and within budget. Scope control is not just about keeping the project within the defined boundaries, but also about managing changes in a structured way. In this session, we'll cover what scope control is, why it's essential, and the steps involved in managing it effectively. To start, let's define scope control. Scope control refers to the process of monitoring the project to ensure it stays aligned with the originally defined project scope. This includes 1. Tracking the project's progress against the scope. 2. Managing changes that affect the scope. 3. Preventing scope creep, which is the uncontrolled expansion of the project without adjustments to time, cost, or resources. The project scope, as you might recall, defines the boundaries of what the project will and will not deliver. But as the project progresses, there will likely be requests for changes, some of them necessary, some of them not. Scope control ensures that any changes are properly evaluated and that their impact on the project's time, cost, and resources is fully understood before they are implemented. Steps in managing the project scope control process. Now, let's move into the steps involved in managing the scope control process. These steps help ensure that scope changes are carefully evaluated and handled effectively. Step 1. Monitor the project scope continuously. The first step is ongoing monitoring of the project's progress against the original scope. This involves regularly reviewing the project's deliverables, timelines, and tasks to ensure they align with the project's objectives. Tools like project dashboards, progress reports, and key performance indicators, KPIs, can be extremely helpful here. Step 2. Identify scope changes. Inevitably, during the project, you'll encounter requests for changes, whether from stakeholders, team members, or external factors. These might include adding features, adjusting timelines, or reallocating resources. It's important to identify these potential changes early and flag them for evaluation. Step 3. Evaluate the change request. Once a change request is identified, the next step is to evaluate it. Ask questions like, how will this change impact the project's objectives? What effect will it have on the schedule, budget, or quality? Are additional resources required, or will other deliverables need to be adjusted? This is where a formal change control process comes in handy. A change control board, CCB, or review committee can be set up to review the change requests and assess their impact before deciding whether to approve or reject the change. Step 4. Assess the impact on the triple constraint. One of the most important parts of evaluating a change is assessing its impact on the triple constraint: scope, time, and cost. A change in any one of these areas will likely affect the others. If the scope expands, will more time be needed to complete the project? If the budget remains the same, can the new scope be delivered with the current resources? Will the quality of the project be affected by implementing the change? After considering these impacts, you can determine whether the change is feasible within the existing constraints. Step 5. Get approval or rejection of the change. Once the impact of the change is assessed, it's time to make a decision. For smaller projects, this might be the responsibility of the project manager. For larger projects, it could involve a formal change control board or senior management. If the change is approved, adjustments will be made to the project plan, timeline, and budget. If rejected, the project continues as planned. Step 6. Update the scope statement and project plan. If a change is approved, the project's scope statement and other documentation need to be updated to reflect the new scope. This includes revising the work breakdown structure, WBS, updating task assignments, and recalculating deadlines and resource needs. The updated scope should be communicated to all stakeholders to ensure alignment. Step 7. Monitor for scope creep. Finally, continue to monitor the project for scope creep, the uncontrolled expansion of the project scope. Even with a formal change process in place, it's easy for small changes to slip through. Regular reviews, clear communication, and strict adherence to the change control process will help prevent this. In conclusion, managing the project scope control process is key to keeping a project on track and within its original objectives. The steps we covered, monitoring the scope, identifying changes, evaluating requests, assessing impacts, approving or rejecting changes, updating the project plan, and continuously monitoring for scope creep are essential for successful scope management. By implementing a structured scope control process, you'll be able to minimize disruptions, manage stakeholder expectations, and deliver projects that meet the desired outcomes on time and within budget. Thank you for your attention.